Welcome to Jets of Cinema. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Steven Maltmanix.
Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, sadly, put a big dent in our wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
Or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time. So we're going to do something different this week. Usually, I tell you about the research I did on a movie. This is what I learned, blah, blah, blah. This is a story about this. Except you watched the documentary on this film.
Don't say you didn't. Do not tell me you did not watch
it. I texted you that I didn't. It's not the movie. The movie is called Tricked. It's 55 minutes long.
It's not a documentary. I told you the runtime of the movie. You said, no, it's an hour and a half. I look into more detail on it. It turns out that it's supposed to be bridged with the documentary and then the movie, and that's how everybody else reviews it. Don't tell me you did not watch the documentary. That's essential to how you view this thing.
It wasn't essential.
It was essential because that's how everyone reviews it. That's how it is on all the DVD copies.
Okay, well, I'm not fucking everybody. This isn't a written review.
You can't cheat like that, man. I'm calling you out on that.
You don't have to call me out on anything.
I totally
told you before we recorded.
You said it was an hour and a half.
No, you didn't read my fucking tweet.
No. This was when we were off air and we were talking about it. Like I was looking up the movie. I told you I saw it was 55 minutes.
I'm talking about a conversation that happened 2 hours ago. You sent me a text message. I said, about to put the movie on. We'll be ready by 7:30 at the latest. You said, it's around 90 minutes, including the doc. And I said, don't have a file of the doc.
I told you where you could
watching
get it. I don't have that.
Okay,
I have the one that just says I'm online.
Well, look at your phone then, not mine.
You can find the doc online. I told you where you could get it.
I couldn't find the doc. No, you didn't give me the name.
I gave you the name. I texted you the name.
Go
ahead
and tell me and our audience about the documentary that I didn't watch.
All right.
You did.
All right.
You didn't get a text from me.
Do you know how this was made? Have you done any research on this? And by the way, I texted you. Yes. Never mind. It's a separate video I had to search called Paul's Experience. Period.
Yeah, I got that. I looked it up. I couldn't find it. So tell me about the documentary. I know it's something called the Entertainment Experience. There was basically a reality TV show where there's an amateur movie being made. Then Verhoeven made this thing, but I know nothing about it. I know it's 8 different scripts. I did minor research, but I didn't watch a 30-minute documentary.
So you don't know anything about the making of this?
Yeah, like I said 2 minutes ago now.
Well, yeah.
Definitely don't know anything about it.
We're essentially reviewing a movie that Brian half-watched. Let me just put that out there. But
no, I saw the movie. You don't need a documentary to know how the movie was made. I've seen The Empire in the Sun, or what the fuck it's called. That's part of Star Wars. I watched that 4-hour documentary. I didn't need to watch
the same. If you watch the documentary, you would know this is not the same at all.
This is not a movie and a documentary as a double bill. This is a movie.
Well, they're stitched together and they're reviewed as one movie. If you look at reviews all over, that's how they're talked about. So
once again, I don't have to look at reviews all over because I'm a critic and I watched the movie and I want to talk about the movie.
If you want to talk about the movie that everybody else watched, you should watch the movie that everybody else watched that they talked about.
I did watch the movie that everybody else watched.
No, you didn't. You did not.
I didn't watch
You're going to me for part of a conversation you did not prepare for.
How many times have we done 2 cents now? 78 weeks and counting? How many times have you read the news stories that I have? And how many times have I told you 100% what the story is? That's why I started this episode saying, I'm going to do something that I've never done. Tell me what I missed out on.
That's completely different, and you know
it's 100% the same.
No, because you don't tell me the stories all the time. Sometimes you post stuff, you post links on stuff, but you sometimes just throw stuff on the fly. You know that. Anyways, how this happened is that Paul wanted to do something experimental. So what this thing is that they took the first 4 pages of the script and they put it online. They took suggestions from other people who read those first 4 pages and they just kept going with that and they managed all the ideas and they put it together. So it's essentially an interactive entertainment experience, as they put it. So basically, they go through a ton of scripts. It takes them forever. No one has any idea what's going to happen because they shot their first 4 pages before they even got all these scripts. So even the actors have no clue what's going on. So everyone's learning this on the fly. And that's essentially just how this got put together. That's how challenging it is. So really knowing that, you can kind of excuse the feeling that this feels kind of like a handheld soap opera, and that but I guess at the end of the day, I gotta say, now that we can talk about the actual product, it's more impressive, and it speaks a lot to Verhoeven's skill as a director that he's able to manage these ideas and put them together in what's essentially a very cohesive little comedy.
See, without having seen that documentary, without knowing that going into it was probably a better thing, because I
But
watched
you
it just
didn't
thinking.
see it the way that everybody else did.
Let me finish. I watched it just thinking it was a short movie, and I didn't know that detail about it,
I'm
and
still
I didn't
baffled
think
by
there
that,
was
though.
anything wrong with it. I didn't see any errors in the script. I didn't think there was anything weird going on with the actor's commitment. It seemed cohesive. There were like ellipses at the end of scenes, then it popped in and nothing made sense. It's a movie. It's coherent, like I said. It's short, but there's a lot going on. There's never any downtime, really. It's really entertaining, and I was constantly wondering what was going to happen next, especially after the birthday party got rolling. Like it moves very, very quick. Even though it's the same runtime as an episode of like an HBO drama, way more is happening here, and it's funny because you almost know nothing about these characters. You're literally thrown into it. It starts immediately at a breakfast table. You don't know these characters' names. You don't know anything about them, and it was actually kind of funny because Elle opens the same exact way. It just someone's getting raped. Like you don't know anything
It's
going
not the
on.
same exact way.
It's in the middle of a scene. Movies don't start like that. You have an establishing shot or maybe a credit sequence or someone like singing while jogging, and then you find out like they're going to their place of business. No one starts a movie like this. And so we're doing back-to-back Verhoeven flicks, and it just completely goes against the grain in terms of what you get from a typical film, especially a Hollywood film. Like I was almost stunned the way this started. Like I thought, as you get this credits, with nothing going on, just a black screen, and it's like almost like a whimsical song, and then, oh yeah, here's your present. Oh, what'd you get me? Like it just like, wait, what?
I
Did
mean, that's
did the first 5 minutes get lost? Like if this was a traditional movie, a typical movie, maybe the family wakes up, they're like, oh, good morning, honey. Oh, brush your teeth, your breath smells like shit. The daughter wakes up and she's like drinking booze already. Maybe like the son is jerking off in front of like his Photoshop videos, and then they come downstairs and they have breakfast.
no. It is kind of like the way it starts. It's like you're watching a TV show episode without having watched the show. You have the title sequence,
Yeah.
and then you just jump into it, and you're supposed to already know everybody. But I mean, what is strange though about it is hearing that this is experimental, and like you just know it's Paul Verhoeven. Just tonally feels so different. Like, I mean,
Not all of it.
yeah, no, I mean, because, I mean, you have this very uninspired title sequence, and then you have this very bland, like, just visual style, which is just, basic handheld. We follow the characters and all that. It's, I don't think this is mumblecore at all, but, it's very
No,
much
not
kind of in
even.
that vein, at least as far as a feel. But it's, I don't know. Really, I'm just surprised you didn't watch that documentary because, like, not knowing that, how do you come at this and call this experimental? Like, is there a part of you that was wondering, so is experimental for him just
didn't
wanting to do a
say-
soap opera?
I didn't say it was experimental.
You pitched it as that. It's kind of considered an experimental piece of
no.
work. We can
I-
go back to other episodes and say an experimental piece of work from 4 years ago. But yes, you said it.
Yeah, maybe that's what I read, and I said that. But no, I definitely didn't say that. I pitched this episode during L. Anyone can listen to it. I've listened to it myself. I said, my next pick for Debt to Cinema is his film from 4 years ago called Tricked. That's all I say about it. I say I want to start watching his foreign films. I did not pitch it as an experimental film. Yeah, maybe off air I said I don't know anything about it, but it's supposed to be experimental.
Well, it is.
But I still don't know much about it. Like I said, if I want to do the research because I'm curious, I did a little bit.
You should
but
watch
I
the
don't-
documentary if you can track
Yeah,
it, really.
if I can track it down, which I couldn't exactly.
Well, it's
but
on
I
Fandor.
don't.
I found it easily.
Even with that experimental angle, like okay, for instance, we'll use a Dogma '95 film, for instance. I've seen Celebration. If I saw that without knowing what Dogma 95 was, I could still critique the film. It wouldn't be an expert critique, it wouldn't be published somewhere. But this is the internet, and I can do whatever the fuck I want. And so I don't have to be well versed in what that filmmaking brotherhood did. Only in camera editing, no diegetic music, handheld only. Like, yes, that makes it more of a manifesto, and you can look at the other films that the collective made and kind of make cross references, but it's still a movie. It's still a good one, and this is the same case, and they're almost kind of similar, actually. But no, it's not relevant, man. Pointing at what other websites and other critics do to review this film doesn't mean shit to me. It really doesn't.
Okay, it's not that. I mean, I looked at it after the fact, after I formed my own opinion, because that's what you do with research. You research and you see what other people are saying, and if you see something, yes. Are you kidding me?
No.
You don't do. Yeah, that's the entire.
No, I
point.
never do that before recording.
No,
The
I'm
point
talking
of
about
this show
after.
Is,
I said after I watched it, I looked and I read stuff.
No, that's what I'm saying. Why would I go online, read another critic's review for a movie
not
before I
saying
talk
that.
to you about it? I'm talking to you.
Uh-huh.
I never, ever read another review before I talk to you about something.
I didn't look
The
at what
point
you
of
said.
this show is that I'm seeing something, you're seeing something, we didn't see it together, and we're going to talk about what we saw. If I go out there and read another critic's opinion, then my viewpoint is going to change from when I saw it to when I read it to when I talk about you, and I'm going to be informed on their insight, and it's no longer going to be my thought.
It's a different way of how you look at it. The process for me is I formulate my own opinion, and then I have it
Okay.
be challenged in different ways. Your
I
way of
challenge
doing
it by
it is
talking
very
to you.
different from everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
That's why
I
it's-
do look at the basic. Like, I don't read professional critic reviews. I'm more like I do tune into Letterboxd and I look at that
Yeah.
because I'm actually very curious as to how they look at that. And you know what? How other people do perceive a movie. That doesn't affect my opinion of it, but that does affect how I discuss it because I try to at least understand other angles where even if you and I talk about a point that we agree on, I try to introduce some other angle. That's just my reviewing style. That's just how I work.
Yeah, I go on Letterboxd too for films that we don't review
Mm-hmm.
before we review them because I am interested in what the community says or what they're thinking. But I never do it in the same way that you never post a review score on Letterboxd before we review.
For this one, yeah, with you, because usually
No,
with me,
period. For Mean Streets, almost every single
yeah,
movie
for
on a
everything
weekly
Dead to
basis.
Cinema related, I never do
Exactly.
it. Yeah, everything else I do, but for Dead to Cinema, I save it because it's more. I'm curious what you're going to talk about. Looking at what a collective community online says is very different from having an in-depth back and forth with you. To me, it's just a very different process. It's not like, I can't really judge taste. It's just I kind of get basic things, and I hope that they can challenge my opinion, and I hope I can find something that might be able to start another conversation or have me talk about something in a different way. But it's never really been about like something influencing my opinion. It's more about me trying to find the best way of articulate what it was that I was feeling from the experience.
Like I said, it's just that's not something I do.
That's just my process. That's how it works. I don't
for
read
this
reviews to
show,
be influenced by them.
On occasion, especially if it's a revered work like last week with Mean Streets, I'll go on IMDb and read the trivia because I'm curious about certain things, or maybe I'll check Wikipedia. On occasion, maybe I'll look at a contemporary reviewer, someone like Roger Ebert, because, he has a great critical voice. But more times than not, I go into it blind, I watch it blind, and then I jump directly from my screening into our conversation because I don't want to be able to forget anything that I just witnessed.
See, though, that is the difference between you and me, is that you love to just watch something and then jump right into it. Me, I prepare like days before because I like to think about stuff a lot longer and see if I can find anything more to say other than just jumping in and reviewing something fresh. Because for me, it's like every time, like right when we were doing dollar reviews at first, I would keep finding new stuff to think about after we have the conversation. It would bother me where I'm just like, shit, I could have said this, I could have said more. Like I didn't have every single thought there. For me, it's just the process is different.
No, I mean, in film school, I did the same thing. We'd be in class, we'd watch a movie, and then we'd talk about it right after, and then maybe we have the lecture.
Like we have conversations, but it's like I like having that time.
like when I go to the movies with someone, what 9 times out of 10, you get out of the movie, you start talking
Yeah,
about it
you
right
always have
away.
the vague general impressions, but when we're having a
Yeah,
conversation like this, that's a different thing for me.
it's not. It's everything's the same for me. I mean, I don't do it often, but when I'm reading a book and it's really good, I'll read it maybe in
Hmm.
one sitting or two. And with a book, I rarely, I'm going to talk to someone about it. But when I was in grade school, it was like literature class. I would do the same thing. I would binge read the book, and then I would come to school the next day and do the essay. So it was completely fresh. So I'm not going to forget any of the side characters.
For a
And
conversation that started pretty combative though, I think at least we can agree different people have different processes on things.
sure.
I can accept yours, but I'm just saying that's what mine is. It's not at all to be influenced by someone else's opinion.
And I'm saying your opinion that I have to watch this and the documentary in tandem to review
I th-
either of
well,
them is not fair because I didn't, and
okay,
this
but
I
here,
don't think
well,
that
here's
this
what
was
kind of
screened
upset me.
theatrically
Yeah,
as a documentary and a short
it
film.
was presented theatrically, but what upsets me is that I got to you like last week off air, right when you announced this. I said, "Dude, it's 55 minutes. Does that even
Yeah.
qualify as a feature?" I mean,
And
that's
I
like,
was misinformed. I said no, it's an hour and a half, and then you said it's oh yeah, you're right, it's a documentary and the thing, and I didn't watch the documentary.
jeez. Well,
And
I don't.
doing it if I had to do it again, I would probably do it the same exact way, record the episode maybe, and then watch the documentary. But I can't say. I mean, I didn't have access to it. I am interested, but I don't think the 30 minutes of the documentary I would learn any more than what you told me a couple minutes ago that it's an experiment. They only had 4 pages.
Mhm.
Everyone on the internet wrote it, and they were filming it as it was being written.
Well, and here's the thing, you know what? If for the longest time, you could have given me or just pulled my leg on just going. You know what, Steve? You're the guy that picked a TV special as Debt to Cinema when that really doesn't count. And while I was watching the documentary, because they describe all these things as episodes during it, all these
Hmm.
segments, and I was thinking, holy shit, did Brian pick a webisode series for us to watch? And I'm not like being serious about it, but like from my experience, this did feel like a soap opera. Because it's really, since we can now actually talk about the characters of the story, it
It's a
really is
family
a
drama,
whole,
yeah.
yeah, that and just like a who's fucking who and who's doing what, and just all these things are complicated and mixed up, and it's pretty fun as such though. Like I think it seeing that as just a bunch of ideas that are coming from a ton of different people are interesting, but it's still very much it's not like Verhoeven just gave up control, because I think at the end of the day, he's still one of the guys that's responsible for deciding what ideas make it, and he has to put something together that's coherent and cohesive. And really, the fact that he chose what you see on screen, I still think that at least that gives him the authorship there, I guess, if you want to call him. Like there is still a creative voice that is being put there, and it's really just it's very interesting as an experiment, because I think that speaks to what I personally think directing really is. Like, when you go to film school, I mean, let's be honest. How often do you meet someone in film school that's directing that is not completely egotistical and thinks every fucking idea has to be theirs, and you're just kind of miserable there as they're realizing their vision in detail, doing whatever the fuck it is they want, and kind of puppeting everybody else? Like, that to me is not directing. Your responsibility as a director is to take the best ideas that come, even especially if they're not yours. Like you have to take them and you have to figure out how to use them, and that's what he does here, is that he does direct. And it's very interesting that, like, I don't know if this process allows the best art to be created, but it still allows for very good entertainment to come out of it, I think.
I'm not exactly sure. There was like 3 questions in there, and I didn't have time to answer any of them. But
Well, it's an
I,
experimental thing, and there's
I,
like
I
this
don't even
process is
like.
very difficult to talk about, I guess.
Sure, yes, the production is experimental as such,
Hmm.
but like I said, I watched this without knowing that, and I'm sure there are other people in the world that have done so too. And it stands up really well as just a movie. I mean, it's a short one, but it's not like really, really short. Like you get all the beats, all the arcs are completed. You don't feel left out in the cold. Like you get a full picture. It ends a lot better than it begins. But all the characters here are interesting. The son, the daughter, the dad, the mom, the mistress who's blackmailing him with his partner at the firm. Like everyone's really interesting. There's no fat here. There's no supporting characters that get dialogue other than the people that mean something. Outside of maybe the Chinese businessmen, but then they're kind of important too in a non-plot device way. But it's fun. I like that everyone's issues are something that you can encounter. You have the adulterous dad, the mom that is aware of this, but doesn't really care because she's still in control in her own way. The drunk daughter who just parties all the time, listening to Rammstein. The perverted son, and then the daughter's best friend who's fucking her dad, using his daughter, and then also eventually sleeping with his son. Like this is totally something that happens in today's world. It's not really put on film often. This is more, like you said, a soap opera type thing. This is something that you find more commonly on the CW or like something like the OC. And Verhoeven doesn't really bring much to this that really fits inside his filmography. It's handheld, which is kind of weird. It's not really stylized or artistic. There's almost no music here at all. There's no action sequences except one.
That's the thing, though, is like really because of the process of this, they don't really know what they're necessarily going to shoot until that day. And I mean, I do think like I do sadly, as much as you want to disown it, I think it's kind of essential to talk about that documentary and the process because you kind of have to look at it in that context. And even then, yeah, it could still play without you knowing that, but knowing that makes it all the more impressive. Like we've been watching it. Now. Yeah, I think you realize like even these performances, even if they're on the fly, like they're a bit more nuanced, I gotta be honest. Like maybe stuff is more stock, like the mom just being there going, oh yeah, he's cheating on me, I fucking know. But like the stuff with the girls, with the daughter and the daughter's friend, like their stuff, they play off each other really well in multiple scenes. And like to see that just kind of fit organically when they don't even know what they're going to shoot or where that's going to go, it still, I think, speaks to just not only their abilities as a performer, but Verhoeven for having to manage that. Like there is no specific visual style, but he still has to make these storytelling decisions just based on what he's getting and keeping it all together.
I mean, you have leeway with something like this, even if it is like maybe the day of you just got new pages. But I have to imagine they're probably only shooting like 7 pages at a time here. They had, I would assume, like a really small budget. You can tell in just the way that the camera moves. Like it doesn't seem like it's a digital camera, but it probably was.
It is. No, that's the only way they could do it. Yeah.
And it's funny because like I said, for how short this is, it seems like a really long ride. Like epic isn't the right term for it. I don't know exactly what is, but it doesn't seem like a short film. Like I think a short film is less than 30 minutes. That's what contributes to a short film. This is just a I don't know. It's just it's not a full it's like not a full 90-minute runtime. It feels like a 90-minute movie. It's just
it's
an
55
hour long,
minutes, really. Like
it's an hour.
I felt it was pretty short. Like it went by fast and it was quick, but maybe because I expected more. Because you told me it was an hour and a half. I just looked at the credits and I was like, "Shit, is that it? Like, are you kidding me? God damn it, I was right the first time." And it was but I mean, it's not like it's a bad thing. It's very, you have to look at this differently, I think, just inevitably. And as a piece of entertainment, yeah, it's nice. But like, again, I have to go back to that making of because it's like you wanted to see something else of the director's work. And it's like you kind of have to like, I think the process of just how this was made ends up being far more fascinating and probably is just a lot better to talk about to me than this thing itself, because it's like the best thing I could say about this is about Tricked itself is that it was a fun watch, but when I learn more about the details that go in there, I'm more impressed with what it actually is.
I think I would have been impressed regardless, just because going from this is his second film after Hollow Man, so going from a big budget American movie like that to Black Book, which I'll probably watch on my own in a week or two, is a like a wartime. I think it's a drama. It might be a romance. And that's a period piece. I think it's World War II. So that's a fairly big production. And
They
then
also
this,
vaguely refer to it in the documentary. I mean,
yeah.
it's
So
it's
go
interesting
from
because it's not just the. I gotta say though, like if you want to talk about Verhoeven himself, just in that documentary, it's not just the process itself, but it's more him evaluating himself as a director and where he stands. And when he talks about Black Book, he's talking about its success in Europe and not so much in the States, and more or less just what his current status is and his philosophies on life and all that. And it's just, it's a fascinating story in its own right, not just of this production, but really of him and where he stands and how open he is about a lot of stuff. So yeah, I gotta say it kind of pisses me off that you did not watch that.
I couldn't find it. I will hunt it down. I am interested, but you can't fault me for literally trying to do something. I mean, I did. I saw the Fandor site that you used. I
Yeah.
wasn't aware that they had a 7-day trial. If
Alright,
I did know that, I would have done it just like you did, but
let's
I wasn't
concede
aware.
to something now because apparently our phones really suck at communicating each other. Because I do believe that you texted me even if I didn't receive it, but because that's happened before. But let's just settle on Facebook Messenger for all these conversations now.
Okay.
Let's just do that.
I do like a good couple of things here, most notably the runtime, like I said, because I'm a champion of the 90-minute runtime. It's something that doesn't really exist anymore. It died like as soon as color came into film, and even though this is about 30 minutes shorter than that, like I said, it has no fat and it works regardless. Like it cuts out things that are typical, like I said, in terms of not just the Hollywood film, but films in general. There's no setup here, really. It just hits the ground running and it ends in the same way. You get closure, but you never really needed it in the first place. Like I love how you have a fourth wall break right at the end, and you just get this look like, oh, she's fucking with him too, just like everyone else in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this most of Verhoeven's films are satirical in some way, and it's just like, oh, that's how business works. That's business politics. She's gonna fuck him. She's gonna take the business right from under him. And I loved that. I loved that look, just the way, because as far as I'm aware, I mean, I still have to see so many of his films. I think that's the first time he's ever done something like that. It would make sense given the type of production this is. Like maybe that was a wink, literally, at the contributors who wrote the thing for him.
No, I gotta say though, like probably the best thing about Tricked itself, and what makes it fun is, I mean, I don't know about you, but I sure as hell would not say that this is predictable.
No,
Like
no,
at
not
all,
even
you
close.
never ever really see where it's going. Like when you get enough
Well,
details, you kind of get an idea of how, in what way things will end, but you never really are a step ahead of it in knowing what exactly is going to happen next.
I knew Nadia wasn't pregnant. I don't know how I knew. I think maybe it was an accident when I was online, or maybe it's just her first scene. But I knew that.
Like
But
see,
even
it was the period thing, like with the tampon in the toilet. That's the first moment where you're just like, "Oh shit, what's going on?"
no, I'm saying I knew before that. I knew.
Yeah, I know. I
literally the first moment she's on film when she was in the changing room, and I don't know how I knew. I don't know if it was because of their interaction, like I said, or before I picked this, if I read it on accident, it could have been spoiled for me somehow. But even knowing that, or at least assuming I knew that, I'm still with you. Like there's enough twists and turns here that it is really fun. All the way until the end, and I think that's because of the runtime. Like if this was 90 minutes and it had just as many hijinks,
it would get tiring.
it would get really tiring. You'd be looking at I was checking the clock because I didn't want to be late for a recording time, but I might have been checking the clock because I was getting bored if it was like 85 or 90 minutes long, because there's almost no action here. The one action set piece you get is when Nadia gets the scissors stabbed in her abdomen,
Which is amazing.
It's so fucking
the
awesome.
reaction in that room. I mean,
when you see her grab those scissors, when you see the wife grab the scissors on the way to the office, like in your head, you're like, okay, something's gonna happen with those scissors. But then the way it happens,
it's
how
the priceless reaction of everybody in the
Everyone.
office, and
Even
just
the
that,
guys
like,
that
sound
know.
of like that
Yeah.
balloon kind of deflating a bit. Just that pause and that silence, like it's so awesome. Just, I mean, because in a situation like that, just what they're reacting to, and then just the shock there, and then the how that just goes away, and they kind of look at her like, what the fuck is going on? Like it.
Well, The really funny
It's
part
just comedy
too
gold.
is everyone except the husband was in on the con. They all knew except him, and they're equally priceless. Like they're equally shocked. Nadia's like, "Why are you stabbing me? Why are you stabbing my fake baby?" And then Vim is like, "Oh my God, she's onto us," and the husband's like, "Oh no, my baby's dying." Like they all have their own little dramatic look on their
Yeah.
face, kind of in the same way. Like you just the way that the son is introduced with the camera around his neck, like he's beyond a voyeur, like he's a millennial voyeur, I guess you could say. The fact that they go into his bedroom and the daughter's like, you got to see this shit, and they open up his laptop and it's photoshopped nudes of her best friend Meryl, and I'm like, what the fuck, or Mermal, whatever her name is, and I loved it, like right from the beginning, like that. When I was checking my copy to see if it was the right movie, I went on like a still of that on accident, and so I was like, "Oh, this has nudity in it. Gonna love it. It's Verhoeven."
Well, it's
like,
Verhoeven, of course. Like,
of
it
course,
wouldn't
there's
be a
nudity,
Verhoeven movie
right?
without it.
And it was just how that played out in just in the course of the film, even better. Like, oh my God, like that's the son. I want to see what his life is like. This isn't something that's gonna get a sequel, but it would be awesome to see what his adventures continue to be like. Does he become a filmmaker? Do they start dating, or like was she only interested in the drama of like fucking her friends? Well, even still, you gotta think about it, that's really fucked up. She on the same day she went from I'm fucking your dad to I'm fucking your brother.
You're up, man.
I I guess I don't know. Like I said, if this was a typical movie, it would have ended with the dinner between the husband and the wife, and then the kids would have been at the concert. Like they would have done some concert footage. Like, oh, let's get Rammstein in this film. Let's do some concert location shooting or something like that. And instead, it's like just them. The idea that they're going on the road trip is a good enough ending. You're like, yeah, okay, they had fun. But yeah, the daughter here. I drank a little this week. I drank way more than I usually do, which is weird to say because I only had one beer. But it was like the manner of which that I had my drink. Like I went to the doctor this week. I had an appointment to get a blood draw, so I had a fast the night before, so I didn't eat for like 9 hours or so before I go to the office. It's 9 a.m., which is way earlier than I normally wake up. I get there, they draw my blood. I'm obviously, because I haven't had anything to eat, I'm a little lightheaded or whatever. I go home, I watch Train to Busan, and I'm thinking about taking a nap. For some reason I don't, so I go to work. When I'm at work, like I kind of give my 2 weeks notice, like not exactly, but basically. And then I get off, I'm like, I have a celebratory beer, one beer, and that one beer got me drunk. Like, I don't, like, it's a strong beer, it's a 10% alcohol, like it's a quad, but even still, like I was trying to set up booty calls, like I was, like in terms of how I drink now, like I was drunk. And it was just hilarious. Like I was basically the daughter here, like not throwing up, on top of some like menstrual cycle or anything like that. But yeah, like as soon as that happened, like it's some of the best I think movie vomit I've ever seen because it wasn't over the top like something like a fucking Adam Sandler movie. Like that is kind of what, like if you're on a liquid only diet, that's what it's gonna look like. Like it's gonna come out looking like liquid, even if it was obvious that like she just had fucking pink water in her mouth or whatever, and she kind of spit it out.
I mean, it looked like she was just vomiting out wine, so I don't know what else she's eating. But
if that's, I don't think she's eating anything in this movie.
No,
and
that's
that's
the thing.
exactly what would happen. Like I've had that happen to me. Like if you're on a booze only diet, nothing else comes out. It's just water. So I was like, I really love that. Just her throwing up on top of a tampon, to be honest. Oh yeah, that bathroom is so chaotic. You have the hostile takeover contract burned in the toilet. Then you have the tampon in there, which is the reveal that she's not pregnant. And then the daughter is throwing up on top of that, too. I think the only way that bathroom could have got more action is literally if someone got some action in it. Like, it would have been cool if the son fucked the best friend in that bathroom at the ends or something
and
like
the
that.
dad on the same day.
Right? On the same day in the same
day,
bathroom. Yeah. Like, he's fucking her on the sink and then the son's fucking her, like, on the toilet.
Yep.
Like, that... Maybe someone needs to make a movie where it's called La Toilette and like the whole film revolves around a bathroom. I'm sure there's a play out there that's kind of like that.
There's
Um,
an idea for an indie movie. You just have it set
right?
at a party and keep it in the bathroom. That sounds like a Jim Jarmusch movie where you just
That
have
could
people
actually
having
work.
conversations.
That could work,
You could
especially
play,
if
and
it's
in the cell phone age, you can definitely play that any way.
if it was like a bourgeois bathroom too at like a party, and literally the camera, like I don't know if you could do it just as the camera is stationary because that'd be boring. No one likes a camera that doesn't move. But if it was yeah, it's like everyone comes in at the party, like say like the body count's like 10 or 15, and undoubtedly someone there is going to be in a relationship. Maybe someone's cheating on someone else there. You got a brother and like a sister. Maybe someone's dad shows up. Like someone gets sick or whatever. Like you could get a
Yeah,
lot of
just
action in the
a bunch
bathroom.
of different vignettes. You know what? You can call it shit. That would be a good title.
No, no one wants to go see something that's called shit.
Yeah, but it would fit, isn't it? Because that's where everyone leaves their shit.
No, like I said,
That's what the
la,
bathrooms are for.
it's La Choilette. That's a better title
Oh,
because
so
then
you
you
want
get
it to
like
be a French movie?
yeah, it's a French New Wave movie. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe I can make it.
there's a dance sequence inside the bathroom. Someone can cut the rug and move it out of the way.
Some
I,
tells me that this idea might have already been taken and it was
I'm
one of
telling
those
you.
Sundance videos that just wasn't accepted and
Uh,
no one's heard of it now.
Trust me, someone's made a movie like this or a play where there's a
Oh,
short
yeah.
story. Undoubtedly, if you can come up with a story in today's modern age, like yeah, no, it's been done. It might just not be in theaters. Um, I know I didn't see the documentary for this one, and you're probably never gonna let this down. But I'm gonna buy this one for $1 anyway. Just because it was totally not what I expected. It was a fun ride. It was, even though it's a couple years old, it's still kind of set in today, and I doubt someone could watch this and not enjoy it. That could be a lot because of just the last like 10 minutes, how chaotic everything gets all at
Hmm.
once. Once the cards are all laid, like once the scissors go into the stomach, and it just becomes a whole nother monster. Like it's seriously like a joyride at that point. But yeah, I'd recommend this to someone. I'm definitely recommending it to our listeners. With the documentary, I'm sure it's more of a recommendation. And like I said, I am gonna find that somehow. Trust me. Maybe if I just have to buy this thing. But yeah, I'm gonna buy this one for $1.
You
Maybe
can
that's just gonna be a Verhoeven thing. I'll buy every one of his movies because I feel some kind of obligation. But I buy that for $1. That's gonna happen.
you can find a subscription of it for free for a week on Fandor. That's how I
There you
watched
go.
this, and you can
Yeah.
watch that documentary too. It's titled Paul's Experience. I don't know why they're separate on Amazon, especially when everyone's reviewing it together. But they are like you can find them side by side practically when you search up just this movie. But no, it's not a buy for me. That's just my standard. But yeah, it is fun. Like it's just a fun watch. It's not something I will probably ever watch again. And I think really just when I talk about this, I probably am more likely going to talk about the process than the product itself. It's just going to be like, oh yeah, that he decided to make this thing and he did it in such an unconventional way and he turned out something that was a really fun watch. Like it's good entertainment at the end of the day.
It,
And I think, when you look at the stuff, like all the creative decisions that are being made and knowing how they all came to fruition, that's really interesting. It might even elevate it.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, just even if you divorce that, for your sake, yeah, it's still a fun watch regardless. And
I
the
think
fact, and that does speak to Verhoeven's ability that he can put something like this together without you knowing that it was made that way, and it never feels like it's choppy at one point because they're making it and they have no fucking idea what the final product is going to turn out like. And he's a seasoned filmmaker. Like he's had experience. He just doesn't have it in him to turn in something that's just incoherent unless he's fucking making some art film or something.
It's so weird because to even call this a nuance film by the director's standards sounds like a weird thing because there's adultery and fake pregnancies and like business hostile takeovers and blackmail and extortion. Like there's so much going on in this, and yet yeah, out of everything that I've seen of his, it is totally the most nuanced. Like this is like the most just normal film of his that I've seen, which is beyond words, and I think that
You
might be
telling me that
true.
Showgirls has no nuance whatsoever?
No, no, yeah, yeah, that's
I think there's a lot more depth to the puppy chow than you are thinking of, sir. Like,
yeah. But yeah, really,
I'm sorry,
it's
the
just, it's
fish
strange.
flapping is far, far more realistic than that vomit in the toilet, I gotta say.
It's I think a lot of my enjoyment of this film too, though, probably came from I used to date isn't even the right word, but I used to have someone in my life who reminded me, or like the best friend here, the
Don't
person
we
of
all?
interest. No, I don't mean in terms of what she did, but just like literally the way she looks, like her body type, like a lot about her
Hmm.
just reminded me of this girl. And so I was just magnetized to her presence on film. So that had a lot to do with it for me. And like, I could see myself recommending this just to people that know who she is as a like a conversation starter. Like, you want to see something kind of cool that's going to totally remind you of so and so, check this out. And maybe they'll be like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, I don't see it. But for me,
That's
yeah,
a you, completely.
yeah, well, I mean, well, you don't know her, but like if you did, you know, I could, and if I showed you a picture, it wouldn't do anything either. But I think that went a long way in terms of my buy. You know, I never got to see her boobs, but I got to see the girl that looked like her. I got to see her body double's boobs. So, hey, thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. You know, trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the Love You site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.